And I like to tell this story here because results indicators is one of those really fun jargony words that you can throw out and use, and people are like, oh wow, look, they're so up on education and they know their research. But really, it doesn't mean anything if you don't really know what's behind the words. So I'm going to tell you about a story where I did not know the results indicators. So 4 years ago I got married, and I married somebody from Pendleton. So for those of you who know where Pendleton is, that's a place where people cook meals. I am from Portland, where pretty much anything can be considered a meal. Prior to getting married, a good dinner for me was cereal, and actually I still consider that to be a good dinner if my husband's out of town. But my husband came from a family where a meal has multiple, what do they call those? Courses, okay, right? So there's, different things come out and they're all involved, they come together to make something. I know nothing about that, I think that's ridiculous. I went to work and I told my friends I'm having this really bad situation where my husband would like food in courses and I'm gonna make him cereal. I'm like, here's the box and here's the milk, good luck with that. So they said, you need to get a crock pot. And I was like, all right, that seems easy enough. Okay, now, quick check-in. How many of you have used the term, just throw it in there? Just throw it in the crock pot. Okay, you're all liars. That's not the way it works. And this is how I found out. I went to work, people said, get this crock pot. I went right over to Target and got one, which I found out now I have the travel size. It's very small. I just found that out last week, and I've been telling this story for like 3 years, so someone finally clued me in. So I got the crock pot, and they said you can throw anything in there, and you just go to work, and when you come home, it's going to smell like someone cooked dinner for you, and then you just leave it in there until it's time to eat, and then you serve it up, and your husband's going to be super impressed. I was like, awesome. So I took out one of the like 20 cookbooks that were given to me as a wedding gift, which that maybe was a hint. And I found a recipe that looked good to me, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to throw it in there. So here's what I threw in my crock pot, okay? 2 frozen chicken breasts, some frozen green beans, a little sprinkling of bacon, and a quick of lemon juice. Because the meal, the recipe was chicken with a side of green beans, okay? Yeah, side of green beans. But you can throw anything in there and just go to work, so that's what I did. So I left it, went to work, I turned that thing on high, I came home, I opened the door, and right away I was like, woo, what is that smell? Okay, did not smell like someone cooked dinner for me. So I go inside, and I'm like, well, let's check it out. I open it up, and it's like all the edges are like crusty, and I'm just like, that's weird. The chicken looks kind of glossy. I was just like, I don't know. So I was like, whatever. They said leave it in there till it's dinner time, so that's what I did. In your mind, you might be thinking, this is the point where a results indicator would have told you should probably stop now and order pizza. But I didn't, because I didn't know that. I was like, just leave it in there. So dinner time rolls around. I rip that chicken off the bottom of the thing, plop it on a plate. The green beans are kind of like a brown, squishy mess, whatever. I just put it on there as if it's like a gravy or something. And I serve it to my husband, and we sit down for our meal, and he's just looking at it, and he looks at me, and he goes to cut into the meat, and it's raw. It's still semi-frozen in the center. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, well, try the green beans, because I'm not deterred by this, okay? He takes a bite, and he's like, okay, miss, I really love you, and I really appreciate that you... he's really trying to butter it up. And he's like, but I don't think you should eat it. And I was like, really? Is it that bad? And he was like, it kind of tastes like hot garbage. And I'm like, whatever. I'm not deterred by that. I took a big old bite of it. I'm like, it can't be that bad. Okay, it does taste like hot garbage. I'm like, gagging. I'm like, this is horrible. Okay, so there are some key things here that were missed. I followed the directions that my colleagues gave me, and it didn't work out for me. I was missing results indicators, right? Here's one. There needs to be liquid in the crock pot.
Campbell's now has a package you can buy.
I've seen it. I've considered it, but I'm just a little gun shy, right? So you guys, you can't just tell people you can throw anything in there, because you can't just throw anything in there. There are things that work better in there, and there are things that don't work in there, but one of the things that needs to be in there is some type of liquid source. Okay? So that did not work for me. So missing some results indicators in a serious way. So then the story goes on. People think this is where it gets really, really good. So later on, you know, I tell this story all over the state and people think it's super funny. Everyone stops me in the hallway and they're like, you didn't really do that, right? Like, that's made up. I'm like, no, that's real, okay? That's my real life. You can call my husband. And so people start sending me recipes. Like, seriously, like, here's a link to 10,000crockpots.com, whatever. I mean, I probably have 500 emails from nice participants just like yourselves giving me recipes. Now, how many of them do you think I tried? 0. Right, because when you make hot garbage for dinner and you normally eat cereal and it's much less effort, you're not going to try that again because I had a bad experience. Much like in teaching, right? When someone says, oh, do this thing, and it's going to be magical and the kids will all say the right thing, you go do it and it's chaos, you're like, no, not doing that again, okay? So then, one of my friends, who is a 3rd grade teacher, she's wonderful, she calls me one night and she says, hey, do you have dinner plans for tomorrow? And I'm like, of course I don't have dinner plans, do you know me? I don't. I start thinking about dinner when I start feeling hungry. So she says, all right, well, don't make any plans. I was like, check, got that. And she was like, I'm going to come over. I was like, sweet. Okay, so she comes over and she brings this brown bag into my house and she starts taking things out of the bag. And she's got like a couple of cans and she's got some labels and there's like a bag of cilantro that says, don't put this in until you're ready to eat it. I was like, okay. So she says to me, all right, tomorrow morning when you get up, you're going to open these cans, you're going to pour these in here, all of it, the liquid and the beans, the whole thing, and then you're going to go to work. When you come home, and she said, you know, turn it on medium. When you come home, you're going to scoop it out and you're going to sprinkle this cheese and this cilantro on top. Don't put that in the crock pot. I was like, okay. She's already like diced up the chicken. It's not frozen. And I'm like, okay, I get it. This is very awesome. And I'm like, Jamie, this is so great. Everybody else just gave me a recipe, right? And she was like, well, miss, that's the thing. You know, being a primary person, it's hard because people always forget about gradual release. And I was like, that is so true, right? It's like that, like, to, with, and by part. I wasn't ready to go give it a go on my own because I really didn't know what I was doing and I had a bad experience. So that's the thing. You gotta have that whole, all of those pieces. What is it gonna look like? What are kids gonna do? What am I gonna do? What's the real life thing? Not just here's the thing, good luck with that, okay? So when you think about step 5, and this does help a lot when it comes to people who are a little bit reluctant, especially people who are not real keen on trying a new strategy. And here's the thing I'm gonna tell you. Talk about it more than you think you have to, because we like to, as educators, be like, oh yeah, we're going to model that. What does model that mean? Model that to me could mean something totally different than it means to Amy. Okay? If we throw out strategies, we use like a GLAD strategy or a PSYOP strategy, we're like, oh, we'll use this strategy, but what's it really going to look like? And the more you talk about that, the more comfortable everyone will be with the plan, and also you'll get through all of this stuff that maybe is not a great idea, or you'll come up with something that is really a good idea. Okay, so here's the 3 parts. What am I going to do? What's the teacher going to do? What are the students going to do other than staring at me? Okay, I can't be doing all the hard work, heavy lifting, right? And what am I going to look for in their work that tells me the strategy is working? When I think about my crock pot, there were some things that I did that were incorrect, right? And then there were some things that should have been indicators for me. When I walked in the house and it smelled bad, I should have known that's probably not going to taste good later, right? When I saw the crusted edges, when we cut into the raw meat, these are indicators that the plan wasn't going as directed. So, real quick, I want you to turn and talk, tell your neighbor, retell your neighbor the 3 parts that must be in your results indicators. Ready, go.